Welcome back. Well, it's the most common eating disorder in Australia, but binge eating is often misunderstood and it regularly goes undiagnosed.
Now, there are new calls for better discovery and treatment of the illness, and for more on this, we're joined by weight loss psychologist Dr. Ali Dale and her patient Emma Bartley. Good morning to both of you. So, Dr. Ali, when we hear the term binging, we hear it thrown around, but this is a new terminology for this, binge eating disorder. So, now, how does this differ from, say, just someone who overeats or emotionally eats?
Yeah, I think this is a really important point because I think we can all relate to overeating. I think we've all had too many Christmas lunches where we've had to let out the belt buckle and we've all eaten to the point of feeling overfull. That's not binging. So what binging is all about is about a sense of eating a very large amount of food in quite a controlled period of time with a real sense of being forced, of compulsion, of feeling out of control, and then very often it's followed by a sense of shame, needing to keep it secret, and that keeps this cycle going.
So let's just reiterate, it's different to bulimia, where there's obviously the throwing up after the gorging.
Yeah, for many years we didn't recognise just binge eating on its own as a disorder. Now we know that it is. It is quite distinct from bulimia. It's not necessarily accompanied by any sort of purging at all. It's just those recurrent episodes of binging.
And do we know what triggers this yet? I mean, what are the causes?
Yeah, we're still very much trying to understand, but I guess what we do know is that as human beings, that association between comfort and food, it's really normal. A study recently by Cambridge Weight Plan showed us that over 80% of Australians associate comfort and eating. The challenge is, though, is that with binge eating, we know that there's very often a depression, and then there's very often very strict rules about what's good or bad in terms of eating. Very, very strict dieting rules. And then invariably people can't live up to those dieting rules. So stress starts to build, stress hormones start to build. They become overwhelming. That triggers a binge episode, so forced eating for a period of time. That releases the stress, but then that's followed by shame, which sets somebody up to binge again, getting more depressed, and very often gaining weight in the process, which then exacerbates the whole cycle.
Emma, tell us a bit about your story, because you've suffered from the illness for a number of years. I think at one stage you gained about 50 kilos.
Yeah, I did.
Take us into the mind of a binge eater and perhaps sort of your lowest time.
Yeah. So it was about 10 years ago. I started taking medication for some mental health issues I was having at the time. And basically what happened was that in a 2-year period, I gained 50 kilos.
As a result of the medication?
Correct. So the medication had a weight gain side effect. Basically, I would just get takeout and just sit in my room and just eat. And like Dr. Ali was saying, it was a continual cycle of just eating and eating and eating. And basically, I did manage to curb it, like it did stop after that 2-year period, and I gained that 50 kilos. And then my weight was around 140 kilos at that point in time.
Is there a stigma attached to this, Emma, from where you were coming from as someone who's been through this, where people, because we're only still getting the diagnosis out there of what this is, where people going, well, you know, obviously you've got an eating problem, or obviously maybe it is, you know, people judge and put labels on things.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think people do recognise it is actually a disorder. I think people recognise bulimia and anorexia, but not this. People just think, oh, you're greedy. Or
lacking discipline.
Lacking discipline.
And then there's a lack of empathy towards you as well, which would cause more shame.
Definitely, yeah. So the cycle continues again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how is it treated, Ali? How can it be managed?
So what we know is that we've got to treat both the underlying issues and the relationship with food, and often the weight associated, because often people gain very large amounts of weight all in one go, so that people can start to feel a sense of control. So we need to help people to feel better. At the same time, help them set up their environments, their sleep patterns, their exercise, all that stuff, so that their environment helps them. And then at the same time, help them learn to change their relationship with food so that they eat slower. So again, a binge is characterised by eating really, really quickly. So if you can eat slower, if you're feeling better, the triggers for binge are under control, much more likely to be successful.
Emma, you talked to us in the break about recognising when a trigger might occur, and you said you had a bag of celery on hand so that you could, if you knew you needed to gorge on something, at least it was celery. Have you just quickly and finally got a message to people who might be watching who can relate to your story?
Yeah, I think it's that you can manage it, you can do it. I managed to do it last year. I lost all the weight. I gained control of it as well. A friend of mine who was a consultant at Cambridge Weight Plan helped me lose the weight and recognise that food is fuel for my body, and I think it's really helped with basically managing it now and maintaining it now.
Yeah, so there is help available.
Definitely.
Thank you so
Power
much for
to
coming
you.
in.
Yeah, thanks for talking.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, as well.